2 three-peats, 13 NBA rings, discover the story of Phil Jackson. Welcome back. Today we'll tell you the story of the man behind two of the strongest NBA dynasties of all time. Don't forget to support us and subscribe to our channel, Goat of Basket. Before we go on, Phil Jackson is a legendary figure in basketball. But before becoming one of the most successful coaches of all time and revolutionizing the game with his tactics, Phil Jackson managed to achieve great success as a player. Born in Montana in 1945, he took his first steps in Williston High School and then at the University of North Dakota before landing in the NBA with the Knicks. Chosen in the second round, 17th overall pick, he won 2 titles with the Knicks in 1970 and 1973. In 1976, he would move to the Nets, where he would serve as both a player and an assistant coach. He retired from playing basketball in 1980 and began his coaching career in 1983 with the Albany Patroons, where he won a championship, 1984, and the Coach of the Year award. After that, he went on to coach in the Continental Basketball Association and also served as an assistant coach for the Bulls, before eventually taking over as head coach in 1989. And the rest, as they say, is history. In 1987, he left the Patroons and joined the NBA with the Chicago Bulls, initially as an assistant coach under Doug Collins. He then took over as head coach after the 1988 to 1989 season, and that's where it all started. This was the beginning of his legendary career as a coach, where he led the Bulls and later the Lakers to multiple championships and became one of the most successful coaches in NBA history. The Bulls roster already featured players like Michael Jordan, who was drafted in '84, and Scottie Pippen, who arrived in a trade with the Supersonics in '87. There were also Horace Grant, Cartwright, Paxson, and B.J. Armstrong. With such a talented group of players, Phil Jackson was able to build a team that went on to become a dominant force in the NBA and win 6 championships in 8 years. But the man who would turn the tide for Jackson and the Bulls was sitting right beside him on the bench, Tex Winter. Winter proposed to Jackson the famous triangle offense, which would better utilize the player's skills. It was a success, and the triangle offense would accompany Jackson throughout his career and be the foundation for his many victories. Phil Jackson's first season with the Bulls ended with a record of 55-27, qualifying them for the playoffs where they made it to the conference finals, but were stopped by Isaiah Thomas, Lane Beer, and Dennis Rodman's Pistons. Yes, that Dennis Rodman. But at that point, the Bulls were already on a roll, and the following season was nothing short of incredible. Jordan and Pippen's Bulls finished first in the East with 61 wins, winning the conference and the NBA title, Jordan's first and Phil Jackson's first as a head coach. In just 2 short years, Jackson had brought Chicago to the top of the NBA, and they were not about to give up that position easily. Those Chicago Bulls would go on to dominate the game for many years to come. The 1991 to 1992 season ended with a record of 67 wins and 15 losses, and an incredible playoff run that resulted in another championship title with a win over the Blazers in the finals. There's no such thing as 2 without 3. At the starting line of the season, Phil Jackson's Bulls present themselves as 2-time NBA champions. They're the team to beat, and in the regular season they demonstrate all their talent. They finish once again as the top team in the Eastern Conference, win the Eastern Conference championship against Cleveland, and defeat the Suns, led by Charles Barkley, in the finals. And it's a three-peat, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first of a fabulous coaching career for Phil Jackson, who had created the perfect mechanism with his triangle offense. A perfect mechanism like the one created by Jackson and Tex Winter needed the right players, but the pillar of that team would eventually retire. Jordan, following his father's death, decided to retire from basketball and pursue a professional baseball career. The new Bulls, however, despite the loss of their number 23, played a great season, and Phil Jackson and his boys closed the regular season with a record of 57 wins and 25 losses. Their pursuit of the title would be stopped in the conference semifinals by the New York Knicks, the team that had given Jackson his first NBA title as a player. The following season, the Bulls decided to make some changes, and Phil Jackson found himself without his longtime player Grant, who was traded to the Magic, and without his playmaker and leader Armstrong. With the team on Pippen's shoulders, the 94-95 season started off terribly for the Bulls, with the only positive note being the return of Michael Jordan. Jordan said goodbye to baseball and returned in style to the NBA courts. Despite all the difficulties, the season took a positive turn with Jordan's return. The Bulls made it to the playoffs, but their pursuit of the title was stopped by the Magic, led by a young Shaq and an old acquaintance, Horace Grant. But Phil Jackson's triangle offense had regained its key player, and the Bulls moved to find the right replacement for Grant in Jackson's system. They found him in Dennis Rodman, who wore the number 91. Rodman's addition proved decisive, and the coach's masterpiece was managing the team's personalities. Rodman, Jordan, and Pippen became the emblematic figures in the Bulls' return, and they did it in style. The 95-96 season marked the best regular season record for years, second only to Steph Curry's Golden State team, with 72 wins and only 10 losses. Just as they dominated the regular season, they dominated in the playoffs too. They avenged their previous loss to the Magic in the conference finals with a sweep and won the championship against Gary Payton's Seattle Supersonics. Phil Jackson's War Machine was back, and they proved it the following year by once again making it to the playoffs and the finals. They won 69 games in the regular season and faced the Utah Jazz, led by Malone and Stockton. Phil Jackson and his team took care of business in Game 6, winning the series 4-2. It seemed unthinkable, but it was in the air. Phil Jackson's Bulls had the potential to repeat, and at the start of the 97-98 season, what appeared to be unachievable came to pass. In one of the most complicated seasons to manage for Phil Jackson due to internal dynamics within the organization, where change was looming among insiders and players alike, those Bulls not only dominated the regular season, but also made it to the finals again, defeating the Jazz once more with a score of 4-2, and with one of the most iconic shots in basketball. Phil Jackson did it again. Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman, with their triangle offense, had won their third consecutive championship for the second time. As mentioned, internal disagreements within the organization and the desire to rebuild led all the stars of that team to leave Chicago. Phil Jackson took a year off, Jordan retired for the second time, Pippen joined the Blazers, and Rodman went to the Lakers. The dynasty of Phil Jackson's Bulls left an indelible mark on basketball, remembered as one of the greatest teams of all time. But where there is an end, there is often a beginning, and the story of Jackson's Bulls made way for his new adventure with the Lakers. Waiting for the coach were Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. The players may have changed, but the triangle offense proved to be a deadly tactic once again. In his first year on the Lakers bench, Kobe and his crew became NBA champions for the 1999-2000 season, with Shaq awarded the Finals MVP after defeating Reggie Miller and the Pacers. The following year, those Lakers soared, closing out the regular season with a record of 58 wins. But it was during the playoffs that they showed their true power, reaching the finals where even a talented Iverson was no match for the technical and physical dominance of Jackson's team. They won the championship ring, their second consecutive one, with an impressive playoff record of 15 wins and only one loss. Next year, Phil Jackson began the season on the brink of history with the opportunity to accomplish a third three-peat with two different teams. The Lakers proved to be one of the best teams in the league, reaching the playoffs and the conference finals where they faced off against the Sacramento Kings. Despite some difficulties due to Bryant's food poisoning, which limited his impact in Games 2 and 3, they defeated the Kings and advanced to the finals against the Nets. The Lakers dominated and defeated Kidd and his crew 4-0 with ease, giving Phil Jackson his 9th coaching ring and making him a key figure in two of the most dominant dynasties in NBA history. Once again, Phil Jackson and his men fell short of their goal of winning their 4th ring. During the 2002-2003 season, the relationship between Shaq and Kobe began to tilt, and despite everything, the Lakers were eliminated by the Spurs in the conference semifinals. After taking a year off, Phil Jackson returned to the Lakers bench between 2005 and 2006 with his trusty Kobe by his side, alongside Odom and Gasol. Those Lakers returned to the championship, winning both the 2009 and 2010 titles. Thanks to Tex Winter's suggestion and the triangle offense, Phil Jackson revolutionized the game of basketball, becoming the mastermind behind some of the most dominant dynasties of all time. He was certainly fortunate to coach great players, but he also had the ability to blend and manage large personalities and individualities, giving us unforgettable moments and forever changing the game of basketball. That's all, folks. What do you think? In your opinion, which teams were the strongest in NBA history? And which of them could have competed against Phil Jackson's teams? Let us know in the comments. And remember to leave a like and subscribe to Goat of Basket if you enjoyed the video and don't want to miss any updates and interesting facts about the world of NBA and basketball. Thank you for following us. See you next time. Stay tuned.